Hi there, this is Patricia from patriciafenty.com, and today I'm going to show you how to crochet a compact granny square using just one color. So you'll be going in continuous rounds. And I do have a tutorial for the compact granny square multiple color squares and the regular traditional granny square, and I'll put links to that below. But you can see here below the difference. The regular granny square, what you have is a chain one in between your clusters of 3 double crochets, and you'll have a chain 2 or 3 in each corner, and that makes these gaps in here a little bit bigger. With the compact square, we eliminate this chain one in between, and we make it more compact by eliminating some of those chains. And this is nice if you want to make a poncho or a blanket and you don't want to have the bigger holes. So I'll show you how to do this all in one color. Now I am using a number 4 medium weight yarn with a 4mm or G6 crochet hook, a darning needle, and some scissors. And this is just the Bernat Premium yarn, and the color is Candy Pink. So of course you can use any color or any yarn you like, so long as your crochet hook matches the size of yarn. So you're going to start with a slip knot, and if you're new to crochet, I do have the beginner crochet series. I'll put a link to that below. So you'll put the slip knot on your hook, set up your tension, and you'll begin with a chain 4. Then you'll make a ring by doing a slip knot by going into the top loop of that first stitch, yarn over and pull your yarn through both loops, and that's a slip knot or a slip stitch. Then you'll do a chain 3, and this counts as your first double crochet, and then you'll do 2 double crochets into the ring, and it might be a little bit hard to find. Make sure you don't go into that first chain. You want to get into the middle ring there. So yarn over, put your hook into the ring, pull the yarn in from behind. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And that's your first double crochet. So you'll repeat that again, yarn over, go into the ring, pull the yarn from behind. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops. Now you will chain 1. And that's where the difference is with the traditional granny square. You would do a chain 2 or chain 3 here for the corner space, but here we're just doing the chain 1. So now we'll do a set of 3 double crochets into the ring. So that's 1 and 2 and 1 more, and that's 3 double crochets, and then chain 1. So you'll repeat that 2 more times, 2 more sets of 3 double crochets with a chain 1, and I'll see you at the end. So coming to the end here, I've completed my 4th set of 3 double crochets with a chain 1 in between, and I've done my last chain 1 here. And now we'll join this round by doing a slip stitch into the 3rd chain of your beginning chain 3, and you're going to go into that top loop of that chain, and you'll do a slip stitch. And now this is where you would normally end your round and cut your yarn and start a new color, but to carry on with the same color, all you do is you'll do a slip stitch into the top loop of the next stitch, and then slip stitch into the top loop of the next stitch, and then you'll be right by your chain 1 space, and you'll slip stitch into that chain 1 space, just like that. And now you'll begin round 2. So chain 3, and that counts as your first double crochet, and then you'll do 2 double crochets into that chain 1 space for your first set of 3 double crochets. And then we're working a corner here. So this is where in a traditional granny square, you might do a chain 2 or chain 3, but here you will just chain 1. And then you work another set of 3 double crochets into that chain 1 space. And it's by reducing these chains in between the clusters of 3 double crochets that make it a compact granny square. So that completes that corner. So now we'll go over to the next corner, the next chain 1 space, and work another corner. And this is normally where you would chain 1, but you're going to eliminate that chain 1 and just go right over into the chain 1 space and work your next corner with a set of 3 double crochets. And a chain 1, and then another set of 3 double crochets in the same chain 1 space. So it's always just a chain 1 for your corner and no chains in between the sets of 3 double crochets. So there we go, that completes that corner. So you'll just work 2 more corners in each of these chain 1 spaces, and I'll see you on the other side. Great, so here we are at the end of round 2, and I've just worked my 4th corner here, and again there's no chain 1 in between the spaces or in between the clusters. And now we'll join the round by doing a slip stitch into the 3rd chain of the beginning chain 3, and going into that top loop of that chain you'll do a slip stitch. And now for round 3, you'll slip stitch over to your corner. So slip stitch into the top loop of the next stitch and slip stitch into the top loop of the next stitch. Whoops. And then you'll be at your chain 1 space. So slip stitch right into that chain 1 space, just like that. And now you'll begin round 3. So chain 3 and work your corner. So do 2 double crochets into that chain 1 space. That's your first set of 3 double crochets. Chain 1 and work a set of 3 double crochets into that chain 1 space. So you'll always work the corners in this exact same way. And then you're going to go over to your next space, which is just a space. In a traditional granny square, that would be a chain 1 space, but here it's just a space with no chain in between. And you go straight into that space with no chain after the corner and do a set of 3 double crochets. So this is a compact granny square, because you're eliminating those extra chains in between the clusters of 3 double crochets. And then you'll go over to the next corner and no chain there and work your corner in the same way, and just repeat this all the way around. Welcome back. So here we are at the end of this round, and I've done my last set of 3 double crochets and no chain, and then just do a slip stitch into the 3rd chain of your beginning chain 3 to join round 3. And then again you'll just slip stitch into the top loops of the next 2 stitches, and then go into your corner with a slip stitch into that chain 1 space. And then you'll carry on doing the exact same thing as before. And I'll just do this corner here, and I'll just come back and show you how we'll work along the sides. So coming out of this corner, you'll have your space here that you'll just work into with your set of 3 double crochets, again with no chain 1 space in between. And you work your cluster into that space, and then you just go over to the next space in the same way with your set of 3 double crochets. So that is how you make your compact granny square. And so of course, as you work your way in the rounds, these side spaces will get longer. So go ahead and work your way around, and I'll see you at the end of this round. All right, so here we are at the end of round 4. And so of course you could carry on and do as many rounds as you like. However, there is something to take into consideration. If you're doing granny squares in the round and you're doing several rounds and you're making a big granny square or even a blanket all going in the same direction, depending on your tension, the square can get a little bit wonky. And I do have a video tutorial on how to deal with wonky granny squares, which is essentially turning your work with each round so that you're balancing the tension with each round. And so you could apply that same technique to this compact granny square. And all you would do is you would eliminate your chain 1 space in between your clusters and keep your corners with just a chain 1 rather than a chain 1 or chain 2 or chain 3. So if you are going to be working big granny squares, I do recommend that you check out that tutorial, and I'll put a link to that below. So as we come to the end of this round, this is the final round, and whatever round you choose to be your last round, I do have this way of finishing the last round with this invisible join, and so that you don't have a knot. Normally you join and you will have a knot where you fasten off. I find those kind of hard to stitch into when you're joining the squares, so I do it this way where I just cut the yarn and then I put the thread on the darning needle, and then you have your beginning chain 3, and then you actually are going to go into the 4th chain, sort of the top of the double crochet, and you're going to bring your needle in from behind, going underneath the 2 V-stitches and picking up those 2 V-stitches of that 4th stitch. And basically you're just mimicking a stitch here, and this stitch you're laying kind of over top of that one stitch there. So you're tucking that stitch down under, and you snug this up and lay this loop over top of that stitch, and then you go back down into the stitch where your yarn is coming out of. There's a V stitch there, and you're going in between the 2 V's and bringing the needle down in behind into the back and pull that through, and then you just lay that out, and you can see that makes just a nice invisible join. And then all you do is darn in your tail end however you do your darning, and just work it into the back. And I always like to darn in 2 directions, so I go in the one direction, I sort of pull that out, and then I come back in the opposite direction just to make a nice secure join. And then you can just snip that off, and then of course you want to darn in that tail end there, and that creates a nice join to join your squares together. So there you go. That's how you do a compact granny square all in one color. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more creative and inspiring videos. Thank you for joining me.